The disappearance of the Ice Age giants is one of the biggest extinction waves of the past couple million years. What happened? A common theory is that climate change wiped out these animals. When the ice melted 12,000 years ago, the sea level rose, and it rained more often. The steppe became forest land again, and the habitat of mammoths and other large animals simply disappeared. But can environmental changes alone really explain this mass extinction? Early on, researchers suspected that man might have played a role in this. Almost overnight, the large animals were literally exterminated. There was even talk of an all-out war of man against Ice Age giants. What supports this hypothesis? The extinction of large Ice Age animals coincides with the spread of our ancestors across Earth. But were early hunter-gatherers even able to kill dangerous animals that weighed tons? Is it not more probable that they kept their distance from these giants? Could humans have killed the greatest beasts of the Ice Age? Certainly not a single hunter, but it was just manageable with a group and a smart strategy. Some distract the animals, others then attack them from behind. A hunting tactic that relies on clearly communicated roles. In the small town of Predosti, a small portion of a huge collection of bones was preserved. Once, sites like this one covered many hundreds of square meters. Humans did not shy away from any animal.
Oh, lots of mammoths I see. A scapula, a big tusk, part of a mandible, some vertebra. Most of the bones belong to very small individuals, babies or 2-3 years old.
I have excavated mammoths all over the world, but I have never encountered such an accumulation of mammoth bones. Over 1,000 mammoths have died here. And when I look at these bones, I see that they are all relatively young. It was not a natural gathering. It was caused by humans. You could say that this was an Ice Age butcher shop.
The site has another surprise in store for Dick Moll. Between the many mammoth bones lies the skeleton of a wolf. How did this predator's remains end up here? Since the first excavations in the Czech Republic in the 1880s, bones of more than 100 such Ice Age wolves have come to light. Were the shy animals attracted by human slaughter waste and then killed?
For a dog, this is, in my opinion,
on closer inspection, some of the skulls have atypical characteristics.
And also from wolves, which is about 9.3.
The anatomical peculiarities suggest a different assumption for Dick Moll.
Some of them stand out because they are relatively small. If you measure these, you notice that the palate region is rather wide relative to the length. The muzzle is relatively short. These are characteristics of dogs. If these are dogs, then they are very old, almost the oldest dogs in the world. And they lived shortly after man began to domesticate wolves.
So these hunters may have been among the first humans to use dogs as hunting helpers to rush fast and high-endurance animals like bison, drive them to exhaustion, and corner them. With this method, our ancestors could have put themselves at the top of the food chain. But would they really have been able to trigger the decline of 3/4 of all the great animals of the Ice Age? At the University of Tübingen, paleontologist Hervé Beaucheron is investigating how widespread such hunting strategies actually were. His goal? To reconstruct the hunting successes and eating habits of early Europeans for as many regions as possible. First, he has to analyze the chemical composition of fossil bones and teeth. Each animal species stores carbon and nitrogen variants from its food in a specific ratio in the body. People who regularly consume certain animals' meats store their chemical fingerprints in their bones. This is visible through a single substance, collagen.
We find out, for instance, that reindeer is essentially eaten by cave lions, and that mammals are essentially eaten by humans, and not by any carnivore. So it seems that the humans had a strong affinity as predators on mammals' meat. For some modern humans found in Central Europe, we find even 60% of mammals consumption, plus or minus 10%.
Beaucheron is certain. With the arrival of man, the animals of the Ice Age came under pressure.
When there is no humans, mammals were safe from predation, while when there were this type of humans, they were not, and this changes a lot the amount of mammals you have in the environment.
Our ancestors cleverly exploited a previously untapped resource when they went on the hunt for mammoths. But mammoths were also particularly attractive for another reason. They provided people with an abundance of something that many smaller animals didn't have: fat. Humans can't feed on lean meat alone. It has comparatively little energy in the form of protein, and its conversion in the body produces toxins that can only be excreted in limited quantities. This is why we also need energy-rich nutrients such as fat or vegetable carbohydrates. However, plant food was rarely available in the glacial environment. Another advantage of high-fat food: it warms the body in cold climates. In the Ice Age, before the introduction of agriculture, it was vital for our ancestors to have enough meat and fat available at all times. So they built up provisions. One option was to bury parts of the prey in cold soil. Meat was probably also dried in the cold wind under the open sky. On top of that, people certainly knew how to preserve meat by smoke, in smoking tents made of animal skins. The clues come together to form a clear picture. Man was a skillful hunter, for whom the animal world was not prepared. But were there really enough people so early on in our history that entire animal species came under threat? After our ancestors had conquered Eurasia, they continued their triumph around the world. They adapted to every new environment, developed ever better weapons, and finally advanced across the Bering Strait to North America. An ice sheet blocked their way south. When it retreated, they could continue to migrate. Here, too, humans encountered animals they had never seen before. New Mexico, 13,000 years ago. A large, shaggy animal is searching for juicy leaves on the shore of a lake. The bizarre creature is a giant sloth, as big as a bison and weighing more than a ton. Hardly any other species spread so successfully throughout America during the Ice Age. In the warm phases, giant sloth even made it to today's Yukon Territory. And yet, after this unique success story, they also died out about 12,000 years ago. Did humans play a role in their extinction too?
think what was happening is that somebody was following the sloth, really stalking it, but also being a nuisance, mimicking it, probably shouting. The sloth was irritated, rearing up, and it's swinging, and very vicious sorts of claws, swinging around, bit over the balance, touching them down as it swings, basically. And then there's a line of toe prints coming in from the side, and we think that's a second hunter coming in to attack the sloth.
If animals escaped injured, humans waited patiently until they succumbed.
Oh, look here, 1, 2, 3.
Giant sloths were not the only Ice Age giants in this area. The largest traces here come from mammoths. Not the woolly-haired mammoths from the northern regions, but their southern cousins, the prairie mammoths, which lived only in North America. Then the researchers come across evidence of the encounter between man and mammoth. Did our ancestors also stalk the largest of the Ice Age animals here?
Look, this one.
Yeah. That's got a human in there. That's beautiful.
What is this?
Look at
Beautiful. Oh. Am I correct that this is the left foot with a human inside?
That's right. And in terms
The measurement of the
its
print should answer an
length,
important question.
124, something like that. Yes, it could be a female or it could be an adolescent male. A little bit small for a mature male, but beautiful.
We're not even here for half an hour, and we find footprints of people in the footprints of mammoths. As far as I know, something like this has never been found before. This is a true experience for me as a mammoth fan.
We can say that mammoths and humans were in this area around 11,000, 12,000, 13,000 years ago, here at the same
Absolutely.
time.
They're coexisting on this landscape at that time.
And other animals are the ground sloths, the horses.
Prairie mammoths stood up to 4 meters tall and weighed up to 9 tons. They were bigger than today's African elephants. A single successful hunt was enough to feed a group of people for weeks. But the king of this American animal world was the Smilodon saber-tooth cat, weighing up to 280 kilograms and armed with 20-centimeter long canine teeth. Despite being an apex predator, Smilodon died out about 12,000 years ago. Could his demise also have something to do with man? Phoenix, Arizona. Dick Mall meets John Babiars, a saber-tooth cat expert, to investigate this mystery. Several kinds of saber-tooth cats lived in North and South America during the Ice Age. All these cats were among the most dangerous predators of the age, but none had longer canines than Smilodon.
Oh, yeah. And you can it's also original.
That's original, and this was associated lower.
The skull shape and anatomy of the extinct animals reveal much about their unique way of life.
More of a flattened teeth. Well, the Smilodons were quite stout. If you compare them to a modern lion, about the same size, except mostly muscular. It looked like a lineman on a football team. All right, just beefy. And you wouldn't want to meet one, in other words, because you wouldn't stand a chance, okay? No matter what size rifle you had. Smilodons were typically stalkers. They couldn't really run as fast. A short burst, let's say, from cover, and leap on a thing they could get their teeth into. So they would actually use their forearms as a mechanism to hold the animal steady while they positioned it for the coup d'etat.
The lower jaw opens really wide. And with these long canines, they then stabbed the animal in the neck area. And then they just withdrew and waited. It didn't take long for their prey to bleed to death.
Successful hunts were essential because saber-tooth cats needed lots of meat. They were perfectly adapted to go after large prey. At the end of the Ice Age, they also came under pressure to survive from human competition.
These large sabers, they actually become a hindrance because once the megafauna disappeared, what do you eat? What can you use these for? You can't use them for anything, whereas a lion whose teeth are adapted to different sorts of prey could pursue and eat smaller animals, and they're more diversified, in other words. So if you can diversify your killing technique, you stand a chance of living longer than if you become so specialized.
Humans, on the other hand, were extremely flexible, conquered new territories step by step, and were able to, in a group, kill animals that were so large that even saber-tooth cats avoided them. Humans gradually upset the balance of an ecosystem that had existed for millions of years. Then, the world broke free again from the iron grip of the cold. In the north, the glaciers retreated. The forests began to spread out, and in many regions the steppe was replaced. This rise in temperature met with an already weakened animal world, and the Great Extinction began. In the south, climate change dried up the kingdom of the giant sloth. This time, the animals could no longer escape to greener refuges. Their populations collapsed. This roller coaster ride of climate change forced many Ice Age giants to retreat further north. But most animals were unable to adapt, with one exception, the woolly mammoth. A small remainder retreated to northeast Siberia. There, the animals survived several millennia. As the sea level rose more and more, it trapped the last of their species on an island. There, they died out about 3,700 years ago from lack of food. With that, the era of the large Ice Age animals ended. Climate change and man proved to be a deadly combination.
Humans and mammoths lived alongside one another for a relatively long time. The humans hunted mammoths. The pressure that they put on them, along with climate changes, meant that the mammoths could not survive at the end of the Ice Age. And not only the mammoths disappeared, but also other large mammals of the Ice Age. Smaller animals, such as the reindeer, musk oxen, wolves, and so on, are generalists. They were able to adapt to this new environment where they lived next to us.
Reindeer are not choosy in their search for food. They were able to survive in the Ice Age steppe as well as in today's tundra. Musk oxen have found a retreat in the deserted expanses of the Arctic. Once, they existed side by side with the woolly mammoths. Wolves also mastered the transition into the warm period. In the Ice Age, they shared their habitat with cave lions and saber-tooth cats. But they were the more adaptable hunters. Brown bears lived side by side with cave bears during the Ice Age, but only they survived, albeit mainly in regions unpopulated by humans.
Man has come a long way at the end of the Ice Age. He's intelligent. He can cooperate, communicate, controls fire, eats everything, plants, meat, has so many possibilities to adapt everywhere. And that is why many animals died out then, and man survived, and will probably survive for a long time.
From the point of view of evolution, we humans are ourselves the most successful big animal. We survived the Ice Age and conquered the Earth. Today, really big land animals can be found almost only in Africa. Elephants are closely related to the Ice Age mammoths, but they also prove to be particularly sensitive on closer inspection. Once decimated, their populations recover very slowly. Elephants have very few offspring that need many years of care. The same was true for mammoths. According to calculations, 200 years ago, many millions of elephants lived in Africa. New censuses only estimate around 350,000 animals. The cause of the decline in population is hunting and loss of habitat. Because of poachers, rhinos are even more endangered. Their horn is sold on the black market. Many of these icons of African wildlife can only survive in protected areas. They still remind us of an animal world that once ruled over our Earth, long before man. But this time, we have it in our hands to protect them, to prevent the last of their kind from disappearing forever.